This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
And so it begins, that time of the week when Kenny and I update you on all the latest and greatest regarding Georgia ag. And I'm sure the big question you're asking yourself, well, what are you guys going to talk about? Good question.
Good question indeed. Here's a preview. Coming up, yes, the cost of farming is on the rise for most, if not all producers, but there is hope as one economist weighs in on the do's and don'ts during these trying times. And for those farmers who are affected, what keeps them going? How do they stay so positive? John HOLCOMB profiles one such operation who says it's something we have to do for the people of this country.
Plus, steak, strawberries, cheesy bread even. No need for fancy restaurants or dining out when we've got 3 easy recipes right at your fingertips. Meals from the field and more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
Good news, bad news for corn growers this year. While the market price for their crop is on the rise, so are the input costs that go into producing it. Damon Jones now on why farmers can expect to pay more this season and what they can do to mitigate their risks.
With corn prices over $7.50 per bushel, more than double what it was this time in 2020, growers are hoping for a bumper crop as they begin planting around the state. And while a recovering economy is one major factor in the higher prices, the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine is also having a big impact.
And so the whole globe is recovering. And so we have good consumption of commodity products. And that's one reason why we're seeing corn prices up. But more recently, the war in Ukraine has caused a jump and I guess more volatility in prices. But Ukraine is the 4th largest exporter of corn in the world.
The news isn't all good for the growers as they are seeing record high prices for fertilizer, which is essential for corn. And while it might hurt in the short term, skimping on the application is not an option.
Even with fertilizer prices up, since the corn price is also up, it's still going to pay to fertilize for what we call a realistic yield goal. So, you know, you don't need to shoot too high that you've never made, a yield you never made before. But you know, if you know about what you can make corn-wise, the problem is if you cut back on your fertilizer, you might not make that yield and then you're not going to make your budgets. And there's no doubt that you need good fertilizer to make good yields.
Because of that, growers shouldn't expect to see a drop in price anytime soon as demand is likely to remain high.
One of the big drivers for fertilizer, especially the record prices of nitrogen that we're seeing, is that we're seeing it's more of an inelastic demand for nitrogen fertilizer because it's more highly correlated to improving yields in crops. And corn prices are good, so we're seeing demand for nitrogen fertilizer high because farmers are going to be less likely to reduce their nitrogen fertilizer application as opposed to other nutrients because they know that one's most associated with getting that yield that they're looking for.
Nitrogen isn't the only nutrient farmers should be paying close attention to, as one in particular has been overlooked in recent years.
The biggest thing I've noticed in the last few years with corn early on is sulfur deficiency. We get a yellow striping. Some people misdiagnose it as magnesium deficiency, but most of the time it's sulfur deficiency. So we do have a recommendation to put 10 pounds of sulfur, and we like to put it out somehow around planting time, either in a pre-plant blend or a starter fertilizer, or even chicken litter has some sulfur in it.
With that rise in production cost, it's important for growers to stay up to date with the market in order to minimize their long-term risks.
Watching the market and trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to forward price or market some of my crop incrementally throughout the season as we know it's growing along and along to make sure that we are covering that cost of production. So that's another really effective risk management tool is forward marketing.
Reporting from Tifton, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
All right, in other ag news, Georgia dairy producers take note. March 30th, the deadline to submit your ballot on yay or nay for another 3 years of the ACCM, aka the Georgia Agricultural Commodity Commission for milk. In order for it to continue, 67% of the state's dairy producers must vote in favor of it. If it's not reaffirmed, then 15 cents will still be taken out of your milk check and sent directly to the National Dairy Promotion Checkoff. By having ACCM, Georgia dairy producers can keep 10 cents of that checkoff at the state level. Again, ballots must be returned by March 30th.
Well, meanwhile, the Georgia Cattlemen's Association made their way to Atlanta for the annual steak biscuit breakfast at the state capitol, a time for those in the cattle industry to connect with elected officials by serving them delicious Georgia beef before getting down to business. It's something Georgia Cattlemen's Executive Vice President Dale Sandlin says is important, especially with legislation being debated that could impact the industry.
This is a great opportunity to kind of be able to touch base one-on-one, them get to know us get to know them, but also for them to better understand how these bills are going to affect us. And so without this type of event, GCA, we rely on other methods, but this is a great way for us to show the breadth and the depth of the cattle industry in Georgia. And we're just glad that we're able to do this for their benefit.
Meantime, with the passing of its founder this past fall, Kenny Bennett Farms in Moultrie is continuing his legacy as the 2022 season gets underway. Our John HOLCOMB spent a day at the farm and tells us how this year will no doubt be challenging on many fronts for the Bennett family, but rewarding at the same time.
For Brett Bennett, working alongside his father are memories he will cherish a lifetime, which is why getting to work alongside his son on their family farm is such a blessing, as they continue their family's legacy of owning and operating this vegetable operation down in Colquitt County.
I'm probably a third-generation farmer. My dad grew a lot of tobacco coming up, and once that program kind of went out, we transitioned over to vegetables and kind of got bigger as the day went on and the years went on. So we do a lot of that. We do several different varieties of vegetables. We do tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, pepper, sweet potatoes, sweet corn, and broccoli and cabbage, and we do a little bit of everything. We just finished up our cabbage planting. We had about 200 acres of green cabbage we just got through planting. Our broccoli's planted for the spring, and we're right around the corner to plant tomatoes, squash, pepper, and everything else.
And just like most producers this year, as they get started with their 2022 crop, they're a bit anxious with such uncertainty on the horizon, especially in an age of skyrocketing input costs.
Right now, we're just worried about our projections. We're trying to get ahead of the game because you have to plan 3 months ahead of time to get something in line to try to package and sell. And I get it to the facility is pretty much my job, but as far as getting rid of it is up to the brokerage firm that we grow for. But right now, our costs have nearly doubled as far as inputs.
According to Bennett, their biggest concern is the cost of fertilizer, which he says is more than double what it was last year, but is something they use day in and day out, and is afraid that meeting their bottom line is going to be a challenge this year.
Just as far as comparisons to the spring, tonnage-wise, my fertilizer as far as liquid or granular is nearly doubled, in cost, and I'm worried about in the following this year, can we come up on our side as well? Usually the consumer is not willing to pay that much for a product,
Despite the challenges and all the unknowns for this year, though, they love what they do and want to continue the legacy of providing quality produce for the world.
I'm lucky enough to see it from seed to table. Once I put it in a greenhouse from seed, we grow it. I have the privilege of growing it in the field, and I had the privilege of processing it to the consumer, and it's all one product. It's built by a lot of people. There's a lot of wheels that have to keep this cog turning, and it's a big undertaking, but that's what we got to do to provide food for America.
Reporting in Moultrie for the Farm Monitor, I'm John HOLCOMB.
Well, who could argue that steak and onions makes for one heck of a combination? But have you ever tried it together in a salad? Oh, just you wait. We've got a recipe that'll really make you cry. Meals from the Field when the Farm Monitor continues.
Well, yes, I realize it is an overused cliche, but dare I say, spring has sprung here in Georgia. Welcome back to the Farm Monitor and to another edition of Meals from the Field. Joining me as always, my good dear friend, Marcia Crowley. And yes, springtime is officially here in Georgia. Really the only thing in season that's coming into season right now, we talked about beef is always in season. So we've got beef today, we got strawberries that are in season. And of course, April 12th is pack date for Vidalia onions. So we're going to be using some onions today, but they are not Vidalia in full disclosure.
They're not out yet.
But yes, packing date coming up April 12th. So go out and get you some Vidalias when those things hit the stores.
They're so
How
good.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Well, we're doing a steak and roasted onion salad. So you, this is like 2 onions that you slice. You're going to pour like 2 tablespoons of olive oil over these, and you're going to roast them in the oven for like 10-15 minutes till they start to soften. Okay. Okay, and that's really the star of this salad. Let me move this out of the way. And I know all your viewers know how to make a salad. I'm just doing this so they know what's going in it, okay? All right, this is mushrooms and radishes. And of course you can swap out any ingredient that your family doesn't like, but this just really sets off the steak. The roasted onions. And these are really, really good in there. It makes a big difference.
And it doesn't matter what onion you use, correct?
Once you roast it, you know, a sweet onion is going to be better with the steak. Blue cheese, but you could substitute any kind of cheese that you like, crumbled. And steak. And I grilled this steak, marinated it, and grilled it. And it's a really good marinade. It has Coca-Cola in it. So I will put that on when I send you the recipes, so it'll all be together. You just grill it to the way you like it, or you don't have to marinate it. You can really fix the steak any way you like it.
That's my kind of steak. Some pink in there, you know. And
you're going to serve this with your favorite salad dressing.
Okay.
And you could make one, of course, if you wanted to.
That is the steak
and onion salad.
Steak and onion salad.
And it goes really well with this cheese bread. The dry ingredients are flour, baking powder, cayenne pepper, and a little bit of garlic. I've already got that in there. You're going to stir in a cup of sharp cheddar cheese, grated. And I find if you grate your own cheese, it works so much better than the stuff you buy already grated, if you have time. 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. This is so good. It got rave reviews. 2 tablespoons of chopped green onions. You're going to mix all that up. Then you're going to add the wet ingredients, which are 2 eggs beaten, a cup of buttermilk.
Real buttermilk.
Real buttermilk. I mean, you could use milk. This just makes a big difference to me. 2 tablespoons of sugar. Before you add that to the dry ingredients, you're going to incorporate 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, it works better if the butter's cold and you cut it in there, but with the lights and all, it's not cold anymore. So we're going to pretend that's all mixed up really good. Then you add these wet ingredients. And like I said, this is a hit. You can make this ahead and put it under the broiler for a minute. What's that? That's a
foreign object that somehow got in there?
Yeah, somehow. You just mix this up, pour it in a loaf pan, and you're going to bake this at 375 for 40 to 50 minutes and check it to make sure. You know what that was in there? It was a green onion. Oh. I already forgot I put those in there.
And it's kind of got that vibe. We won't mention the famous seafood restaurant.
Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Yes,
yeah.
That's kind of got that, but in a loaf of bread type style.
Yeah, and it's way easier. All right, we'll move that out of the way.
There you see the finished product of that.
And last but not least is a strawberry crisp. And this is 4 cups of sliced strawberries. I've already got in there cornstarch, lemon juice, and a little bit of sugar. And you're going to make the crisp, which is butter. Kind of mix that up a little bit. 3/4 cup of quick cooking oats. think this is a half a cup of brown sugar, but it'll be right on the rest on the website. You mix all that up, and you're going to crumble it over this blueberry, over the blueberries. Those are strawberries, right?
Those are strawberries.
Yeah, blueberries are blue.
Strawberries are blue.
Yeah. You could use
blueberries are
you
blue.
could use blueberries. Yeah. You're just going to crumble this over this crisp and bake it for 30 minutes until it starts to bubble.
Occasionally we have to go back to the basics, don't we?
The basics. This is black. This is red.
So,
and
yes,
that's it.
Those are freshly Georgia-grown strawberries that we're using as well. So there you have it, your springtime recipes. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, you can find these recipes by logging on to our website, farm-monitor.com. Scroll all the way up to the top, hit recipes. Everything is on there for you. Recipes dating back months and years. So we continue just to add to that. And as always, Marcia does a great job.
It's a very good collection.
It's a very good collection, and we cannot thank you as always. We love what you do. We love your food. So hopefully we can continue this. So anyway, good to see you again, Marcia. Good to see you, and we will talk again next month.
Ray, Marcia, great job as always, and thank you so much. Hey, don't forget, if you missed any part of Meals from the Field or other features on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. But a word of warning, just give yourself plenty of time to scroll through because the archives go all the way back to 2009. Also, once you're done there, keep clicking and like the Farm Monitor Facebook page. Send us some feedback too. If you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, shoot us a message either on Facebook or at the address that is on your screen, that is news@farm-monitor.com. Well, they're harmless to humans, but will do some major damage to your rose bushes. After the break, Paul Pugliese on how to rid your landscaping of sawflies.
Mental health is really important to me. Not only have I struggled myself, but I've watched other farmers struggle. I saw my grandfather struggle from time to time, and we're out here for hours on end by ourselves, and it just lets our mind race, about what if, what about that, the sacrifices that we're making. My kids aren't seeing me, my wife's not seeing me, what am I missing out at home? And there's a lot of things that we can't control that we think we can control. I credit my wife a lot for me going and seeking help. I respect all the women in her shoes that do what she does on a daily basis. I think I've become a stronger person by talking about it, and I hope that my story helps other farmers talk about their struggles and feel like it's okay to talk about it, because it's one of those things that if we don't talk about it, nobody knows that we're struggling, and the struggle is real.
Hi, I'm Paul Pugliese with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Every spring we get calls from homeowners with questions about why there are holes in their roses. Roses get holes for all kinds of reasons. That could be caterpillars or beetles of some sort. But in this particular case, it's an insect that a lot of people are not very familiar with. In this case, it's a tiny little slug-like insect that you'll find on the back sides of the leaves sometimes. And that tiny little slug is actually called a sawfly, which kind of looks like a little bitty caterpillar. It's a tiny little green slug. It has more legs than a caterpillar, but they're very, very tiny. Those guys can chew all kinds of holes in the leaves, and when they do, sometimes you can see what looks like light coming through the holes in the leaves, what we call that a window pane effect, or they'll chew straight through and make big holes and small holes scattered throughout the leaves. So sawflies are actually the larval stage of a wasp. And it's a wasp that actually doesn't sting. It's a predatory wasp that feeds on other insects. So in a sense, it's actually beneficial, but it can cause a lot of damage on roses in the springtime. Usually we see this damage start to show up in Georgia around early April, and it'll continue into May, sometimes into June. And those sawflies only last for maybe a month and a half at most. Sometimes we'll get a second generation that'll come out later in the summertime. But more often than not, the worst is the first outbreak in the early spring. So what do you do about them? Well, if it's something that you're worried about on your roses, realize that it's just chewing the leaves, and so most roses can actually leaf back out again and produce new buds, and they'll be fine. But it does look really bad, and so if it's something that you want to deal with, one option is to just spray down the rose with a water, and if you hose it down, those slugs will fall off sometimes, and they're very clumsy, and they're not able to actually climb back up on the rose and cause any additional damage. If you want to do another type of a treatment, you can use a horticultural oil or an insecticidal soap from your local garden center. That's a really good option for smothering those insects. You've got to spray really good on both sides of the leaves, because a lot of times they're hiding out on the underside. And so you got to get good coverage if you're going to use an oil or a soap like that. And again, make sure you buy a plant soap that's available at the local garden center that's safe and won't burn the leaves of your plants. One other option that's really one of the best options for preventing these, because by the time you see the damage, it's already done. There's not a whole lot you can do about it, is to apply a systemic insecticide. And there's some really good systemic options you can buy at most garden centers. One of the more popular ones on the market now is called imidacloprid, and you can buy that at just about any garden center or local feed and seed store. And with that type of a product, you actually apply it as a root drench application. So what you would do in that case is you would get you a watering can, and you only need about a gallon of water to treat a small shrub like this. And whatever systemic product that you choose, there's several different brands on the market that have the exact same chemical in it. Read the label on that product, and it'll tell you how much to mix up in that watering can. And then once you've mixed it up, make sure you're wearing gloves in the process of pouring that, because you're dealing with the concentrate. So you should always protect yourself from pesticides. So very simply, put on your gloves, mix that up according to the label, and then when you're ready to water that in, you literally just water it around that plant, just like this. And about a gallon is necessary to water it in, again, according to the label. And that will actually work its way into the root system of that plant. And after about a few weeks, it'll be in the leaves, and it'll protect those leaves for the entire season on that plant. And it's something that you might need to do once a year. And so it's better to treat again early March, before the sawflies actually come out and start causing the damage. And that's an easy way to treat for this problem, if that's the way you want to approach this. One thing we do encourage you to do is to keep a good layer of mulch around your plants, so that you don't have bees and things that like to nest in the ground that might come in contact with that insecticide. Also, we don't recommend using dust type insecticides because those will actually get into the flower sometimes, and those bees and pollinators might pick up the dust on them, just like pollen. And so we want to protect our bees and our pollinators and try to avoid spraying flowers directly with any pesticide. That's where a root drench application can be a lot safer. And again, one application is all you would need to get that plant through the entire season. So if you have any additional questions about roses or any flowers or shrubs or even lawn questions, give your county extension office a call at 1-800-ASK-UGA1, or go to our website at ugaextension.com, and continue to follow us on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Excellent job as always, Paul. Thanks so much, and thank you for making the show possible.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. We hope you have a great week.